What's going on, everybody? Welcome to our Thursday show, and we have a lot of question marks more than we do answers on this show. So here's the problem. We've got some weather issues in Boston, and we've got weather issues in New York, and we've got weather issues in Colorado. Pretty much all the games you want to play outside of Toronto. So while I think these games play, I do think it's worth just noting that there is some risk involved, and maybe taking one-offs, or unless you're doing some sort of a stack with those games, maybe that's just not the right idea on a small slate like tonight. And it's going to be hard to try and get different elsewhere because, I mean, one of the pivots, the other pivot off the Dodgers is the Rockies. And then you've got Boston and Cleveland, which I think are both in play. And then you've got the Yankees, who I think are certainly in play as well. If things go south, and we'll get an update a little bit, I think that the Phillies are your other team that you want to consider. I could certainly see an argument for, this is the weird one, but I still think there's an argument to be made for the Rangers against Ohtani, and that's, you just get ultimate leverage with that. I think that Houston is probably not a good bet tonight because, and I don't like Seattle much either. But it is concerning. And I'll just say what I'm doing right now. I have the Blue Jays and Dodgers a lot of places, but what I'm doing is leaving a lot of money on the table in certain spots. So at least I won't have to worry about being duplicated. But it still doesn't feel like the optimal thing to do to play players in baseball with this high of an ownership, especially when we factor in the weather concerns. I think that the Blue Jays are almost as good a bet as the Dodgers today. I really like the Blue Jays. And I think if you want to build them as your primary and use a few Dodgers as your secondary stack, I think that's totally viable. But I mean, the problem I'm having is that getting off of a chalk is hard enough already on smaller slates. But when you really like the chalk, it's a little tricky. And for what it's worth, I'm going to take a look at the ownership projection. I don't have the Blue Jays being owned that much on DK. I'm a little surprised that it's not higher than they are. I think that they're all terrific, and Vlad is my staple at first base today. I'm going to be all over. He's my highest owned first baseman. Matt Chapman is my highest owned third baseman. Bichette is my second highest owned shortstop. Kirk is my second highest owned catcher. And then you get Gurriel. I'll throw a Jansen one out there, and I will play some. I don't know if I mentioned Springer. I do like Springer as well. So I think the Blue Jays are where like you should maybe build the Blue Jays as your primary and Dodgers as your secondary. Also, I think you can stack the bottom of the Dodgers order and like leave bets out. One thing that's interesting is because McKinstry's in there and he's going to be owned a little bit. At first, I was thinking, okay, well, you know, if they're going to play McKinstry, the chances of a lefty coming in to pitch to the bottom part of the lineup. The problem is you've got for if they want to bring a lefty in for Colorado, you've got Mookie Betts and Trey Turner coming up right after McKinstry, which sort of gives him a little bit of extra insurance. And I mention it because he's 2K, second base and outfield eligible. All the Dodgers and Blue Jays are basically eating up almost all of my outfield. I think the Giants are going to get some ownership. I think it's fine. It's just not what I'm doing. But they've got the cheap options also there. And it's just hard. It's 50-something degrees. It's really hard to play players for me in that situation. But now that I look back at it, I actually am seeing the Giants are sort of not getting owned as all, which a little bit surprises me. Mercedes at 2K. I guess that's because McKinstry's in. Austin Slater at 3K. Those guys would be the ones who stand out for me. On FanDuel, there's a few prices that'll stand out. Again, please fire in questions, fire in thoughts. I'm just going to, point out a few things on FanDuel. Castellanos and Franmil Reyes are both too cheap at $2,300 each. I really like using both Will Smith and Freeman together in your Dodger stacks over there. I think you can get weird with the stack and leave gaps between. You can play Will Smith and Freeman, and then I don't know, one of the Lamb, Muncy, Bellingers with the other one, the two of those guys. And then, for me, I do like the Indians a bit tonight, and I'm having trouble. I actually think that it's a really close argument between the Indians and Boston tonight. I think they're very, very close for me. But the problem is I need the weather report before I do anything. Golf has mostly been my man Homa is getting crushed. He's only even or whatever. It's going to have a great second day, which he probably will. But my golf lineups are kind of blowing up. So hopefully you guys are doing a little bit better. Luke List did not help me out at all. I don't know how he shot a +4 today, but he somehow found a way to. That was one of my sneakier plays. Other guys I've had that I was really right on with were Cam Champ, Caleb Tarum. They're off to a great start, so I'm very happy with those. Oh, and Webb Simpson, who Sheets bet outright and is tied for third right now. He's got a 50-1. He's 2 shots back of the lead. Taylor Pendrith chalk is getting there, and I did not play any Tony Finau, so that's my problem. Top pitchers are, for me, in order on DK. It's really hard to argue against Ohtani unless you wanted to maybe play some of the other side, which I think is completely viable. This might be the slate where people you say, hey, what do I wish I would have done with one lineup? I think I should probably throw one non-Ohtani lineup. I'm sorry, one Ranger stack out there. I think that's actually a viable way to try to win a tournament tonight. And then you could play them with whoever you want. You could play a 4-man, you could play a 3-man stack and have them be your add on to your Dodgers or your Blue Jays. And I think that's completely viable. I think it's a really, really good route to go, actually. So Ohtani's number 1, Wheeler's number 2 on DK. Wheeler's number 1 for me on Fanduel. Ohtani's number 2. Wheeler should work further into the game in general, doesn't get himself in trouble quite as much, and has a really crazy long leash. But Ohtani is a very tough guy to fade because when he puts up a number, he puts up a monster number. I mean, you can just go through his game log of pitching. It's, he was just solid last time. He gave up 6 runs, and he still had 20 fantasy points in Atlanta because he had the 11 Ks. The strikeout stuff with this guy is just unbelievable. So Ohtani, I actually did bet the under on his prop today to give away one free thing I'm doing. Because I don't know. I have a feeling this spot, I don't know. I keep talking myself into it. Maybe that's what I do when I get off the air is get a little bit of Rangers actions. But it's pretty clearly those 2 guys and then Alex Wood if you wanted to spend down. I am going to mess around and throw out some Spencer Howard. And I am going to mess around and throw out some Urquidy. I think Urquidy is getting just a little bit too overlooked. And it makes sense why. But if you play an Urquidy Ohtani lineup, that could easily be the 2 highest scoring pitchers. But I'm still betting high on. I think that Wheeler and Ohtani are just really good, and I think that's what we should be doing. I don't think that you want to. Alex Wood would be the other one. I don't know if you really want to mess around with too much else. I just don't like the other pitching that much. So that is what I'm doing with pitching. And I'm going to have to get out of here in probably 12 minutes. I need to get some updates from Roth about this weather because it's really a shame already to play on these Thursday slates where you have other guys playing because it's the day off and all that stuff. And on top of it, we've got the Dodgers in Coors, and we've got possibly the best matchup in baseball for Toronto. It's just really hard for me to see going anywhere else personally. Now, is somebody else likely to get there? Yes, somebody else could get there. I think this little mini Rangers idea is probably something that we should be doing a little bit of. And I know it sounds crazy, but I really think that it makes a lot of sense. As good as Ohtani is, if he can somehow regress for one game back to the wild Ohtani, or even look, I mean, the Braves touched him up pretty good last time out, and again, he still put up 20 fantasy points, but the Braves scored 6 runs from Texas in 6 innings off of Ohtani would be good. That means that maybe they're good for 7, 8, or 9 in the game, especially with that bullpen, maybe even 10. There's a chance. I'm just saying there's a chance. And they're all priced. They're all going to be completely unowned. It's a very interesting route to at least get a mini stack of that. I think Philly is very viable. Yeah, especially with the weather. I think they're probably the most logical. I feel like if this game was in Philly, they would have a 5-point-something run total and have some ownership. As it stands, I don't think anyone on DraftKings, outside of Schwarber, is going to have ownership. On FanDuel, I do expect Castellanos to get some ownership because he's 2,300, and that's just a little too cheap. As much as I've always said this about Castellanos, the guy is massively, massively overrated. Just beyond belief. When he was in Cincinnati, I think it took him 3 months before he hit his first home run on the road because and then he ended up hitting people look what he's doing in Cincinnati. Yeah, but he's in Cincinnati. He's got 6 home runs this year. I really like, but I am playing him on FanDuel. I do like Bryson Stott as a home run bet. You can play either Hall or Hoskins. Hoskins obviously gets the slight edge. Baum is batting up in the order 3,800, very reasonable pivot off of the chalky Dodger Muncy. So I think that Philly is viable. Yeah. But that's basically what I'm doing is it's going to be waiting on weather, getting a little creative with a Texas stack, mostly probably a mini stack, but I do think that it's an interesting route to go. And I do like this this situation we have here, you know what? I think that might be what I do in one of my big buy-ins. I'm just talking myself into it more and more. Why not Seager, Garcia, and pick a third one? I just think it makes too much sense. Let's just see what we can do if I do that. And for Texas, I'm just taking a quick look here. Rangers. Wish we had a nice third base out. Well, what do we have? We have got Simeon at second base. I can do that and then play Muncy. Yeah. You know what? I think I've talked myself into it. In the final survey says that we're gonna play some Rangers on one of my big ones. I just love the idea of getting weird on this kind of a slate, which is already just a total weird slate. Yeah. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to be doing. Too bad we can't get Garcia a little bit cheaper. I would love it if they priced when they used to be really good at this, pricing people down per matchup and stuff, and they're just not doing it the same anymore. So a little bit frustrated by that. Taylor Ward is another guy who stands at 2,900, who I think is a very viable play on Fanduel as well. I think people will play more Benintendi, but I'll always side with the guys with the power upside, and Taylor Ward certainly has that, especially in this matchup against Howard, who just hasn't been any good. I really like this lineup I just built here, but I would like to try and find a way to get Adolis Garcia in it, but I currently don't have that. Boy, that you know what? It feels really good. That's one thing I love, just being off the chalk, because you just know, you know what? If my guys get there tonight and the other guys don't get, if Colorado's nothing's happening, and then late in the day you get the boom from first inning and a couple home runs from your Texas, you just feel like you got a chance. You know what I mean? It's really hard to win trying to restack with the top teams. Even though I've done that before successfully, it's just frustrating. All right, guys, fire on any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to get out of here because I don't see a whole lot going on in chat. We kind of expect that on Thursdays. Please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. We really appreciate it. And happy to answer anything relates to anything. I would say that if I was playing a showdown tomorrow for golf, I would bet on Homa. I think he will come out and have a good day too. If I was playing showdown in golf tomorrow, I would probably, who's another guy I would throw out there? Siwoo had a good day. I like Siwoo in general. I actually almost wish he had a worse of a day because he'd be lower owned he won't be owned that much in the showdown, I don't think, anyway. I think Patrick Rogers could have a good day. I think Zalatoris is a really strong bet too. I mean, these are obviously the expensive guys, and Cantlay you can throw in the mix. I think all those guys are going to end up putting it together before all's there. Please don't ever ask me questions in Discord while we're on a show. It just it never helps. It always just distracts from the show. So please only ask questions while on this channel, while we're on this channel. Afterwards, you can tag me if you want to, and that's fine. But I don't answer questions when I'm on air. And I'm trying to do that. I'm saying I don't answer questions on air. So don't ask questions in Discord while I'm on air, please. But ask me anything you want here. Please fire them on in. I want ideas. I want thoughts. I'm not going to tell anybody what I'm doing with Boston and Cleveland yet because there's not an answer for that. I can't promise. No, I can't promise. Look, I do the best I can updating, and we're getting questions already in there about, closer to first pitch. I will say as best as I can what I'm doing, but you got to ask me right then, and hopefully I answer. But it's really, really hard when you're shuffling and adjusting lineups to try and, especially with nights where I have like hundreds, to try and just let everybody know. I end up doing it sometimes after the slate locks because I can't do it all at the same time. Tonight's easier because it's not as hard. It's not as much out there. But what I'm doing right now is I'm still keeping I'm keeping it in stacks. That's basically the answer to the question. I'm going to play some of I'm going to keep my Boston stacks. I'm going to keep my Cleveland stacks, mostly mini stacks. But I'm not going to I'm not going to play one-offs from that game. It's pretty simple. Yeah, I like the idea. I mean, the Yankees have got risk also, by the way, with weather. But yeah, the 4 Yankees and 4 Blue Jays. I think that's that's sharp. I think that could work out well for you, Rich. Don't believe what people say when they talk. I mean, now we have weather to worry about, so I understand it. That's why you sort of do the stack or fade thing. But I'm telling you right now, like, I don't think that I have a hard time seeing a couple of the Dodgers not have huge nights. But yeah, if you want to go a different route, I think that's a really viable route to go. 4 Yankee, 4 Blue Jay. I think it's totally makes sense. I also don't think you have to fully stack anything. You could do like a 3-3-2 all those like a three Dodger, 3 Blue Jay, 2 Yankee type of thing. The problem is you guys start getting into that. Well, then I'm not really fully stacking, and the game's got weather concerns, and it's a little tricky with that stuff. So, but I'll do my best to get in what I'm doing. But yeah, I need to get I need to be updated to weather more. Yeah. Let's see if there's anything else. Looks like we're running out of questions here. And I think that's pretty much all we got. It's pretty much all she wrote for today's slate, unless we until we find out a little more about weather. And I am no weatherman. I'm just going to read through all the weather I can, try and figure out what I can, and go from there. That's what I'll be doing. I don't know. I'm not ever going to be a person who says this is safe and this is not. Like, it just doesn't. It's stupid. It gets people fired up and they get angry at you. I'm going to be honest about what I'm doing, but I will not be honest. I will not say this is the right, this is this, and this is that. It's what other analysts do, and they get themselves in trouble because they're just, being silly at that point, I think. Anyway, I would encourage, if you're playing a bunch of lineups, to get a Rangers stack in there, at least a mini stack. Joanne just wrote in LAA, Texas for tonight. I don't know what the question is. Throw in the question, Joanne. Happy to answer it for you. But yes, they are playing. Oh, you're talking about they're not playing each other. Okay, so you're saying that you like that both those stacks. Yeah, I would not do that. I think that's really, really, really getting yourself into trouble. No, wait, they are playing each other. Yeah, I'm not full stacking that game, but I mean, the Angels are a very hard team to want to stack. They're just terrible. It's really hard to want to stack one of the worst offenses we've seen in recent memory, which is very strange. But if you want to play Ohtani and Ward or something, I have no problem with it. Or Stassi, I guess you can get a mini stack in there, but I wouldn't be trying to target those two guys. It's not like that game stands out for any major reason except for my get off the chalk with the Texas, but you don't need to go extra off the chalk and play nothing. I mean, it's not like anybody is playing that Texas thing. So if it hits, it's going to hit anyway. You also have the best pitchers umpire in baseball, the best pitchers umpire on the slate in that game. So that's another thing to be concerned about a little bit as far as stacking goes. And of course, in Toronto, we have Alfonso Marquez, who is just awful. But it's really weird because he's an extreme hitters umpire, pretty much according to most people. But the weird part is, like, I watched this guy miss calls where he's like missing by like 7 inches. Like the pitches are nowhere near the plate and he misses those calls. Yeah, LA Dodgers, Texas, it makes a lot more sense to me than the. You don't need to go super over the top contrarian, but could it hit? Sure. I think both the Angels and Rangers have a chance of hitting tonight. I would lean more on the Angels are the more obvious side, and the Angels are going to have some ownership as a because of that. But it's really hard to stack the Angels when you can't play Ohtani, and so then we're playing with Rengifo. That doesn't feel good. Taylor Ward, Jared Walsh, Brandon, Max Stassi, all fine. Everybody else it's an awful lineup. Like, that is a really, really awful lineup. That's one of the worst lineups I've seen. You got Magnarius Sierra back in the big leagues, a man who's never in his life, I don't think, hit a home run, and he's bounced around for a while. David Fletcher can't hit the ball. Velasquez can't hit the ball. Brandon Marsh, what is he hitting? Like 10? Just kidding. But it feels like he's hitting about that. So I just don't have any interest there, even though I understand it. Like, it's really hard just to play teams that suck when there's so many good spots. No, Rich, I don't think, unless you're a weatherman, I don't think you should be judging whether or not the weather looks worse than New York and Boston. I would take the word of it of the Osimo or Stochastic guy and Kevin Roth above that, and you can just follow them on Twitter. They're talking about it. It's pretty right now. It looks the other way to me, the Boston game, but again, subject to change, of course. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get out of here and listen to what's happening with the weather, and I will say good luck. I appreciate you all very much. Let's get after it. Let's get some stuff going. I'll try to post my stuff in Discord of what I'm doing with Boston and all those things. But my current plan is to leave the stacks in and not play the one-offs. That's pretty much all I got right now. So thank you all very much, and we'll hopefully see you guys take something down tonight. See you at the top of the leaderboards. Good luck.